Well, hello and greetings. So great of you to join me today for this session of Disaster Hack. Today we plan to talk about public information, particularly information that is shared through the use of traditional media, as well as the increasingly important means of social media. So let's proceed. In a major disaster, there will be a need for a great deal of information on the part of citizens in the community, as well as the government. People will want to know several things. What happened? Were people injured or killed? What should people do? What is the government doing to help? How can we help victims? All of those questions need to be asked after a disaster. This brings up the role of the media. The media can help us acquire and share information. For instance, the media may educate about preventive and preparedness measures, warn about impending hazards, provide information about evacuation routes and sheltering locations, describe protective actions that people may take, relay what the government is doing, and convey how people can acquire assistance if it is needed. If you're working in emergency management, it is recommended that you are aware of the different types of media that exist and how they prefer to report the news. The local media will want to know who is impacted by a disaster and what first responders are doing. The regional media might look at how the disaster affects multiple states. The national media, in turn, will concentrate on what the president is saying or what FEMA is doing. International media will want to understand how the disaster is affecting other countries. Of course, there's different ways that the media is conveyed, whether this is through newspapers, over the radio, or through TV. In the past, the focus was on newsprint, where a lot of facts and details are provided. Radio news media provides sound clips and quotes. And of course, TV wants to concentrate on video footage of the disaster and what is taking place. Another thing to understand is the behavior of the media. Research from Joe Scanlon reveals typical patterns the media will be involved in. For instance, they will hear of a disaster, report what they understand about that particular event. They'll search for additional information and details. They'll send reporters en masse to the field. Those reporters will make demands on emergency management officials trying to gather additional facts and information. And then, of course, they will share their own perspective of the disaster. The media, in many ways, is a friend to the emergency manager because they provide information to the public. In other ways, the media is a foe and can present you with many challenges. As I've mentioned, they will arrive at the scene en masse. Sometimes they lack technical understanding or may provide inaccurate reports. Sometimes their style of reporting is intrusive and it lacks sensitivity. At times they're uncooperative, not wanting to leave an unsafe area, and they may even interfere with operations. At times, or even often, the media will misrepresent facts about the disaster and perpetuate myths. For instance, Brian Williams talked about a body floating right by his hotel after Hurricane Katrina. This turned out to not be true. The media may create safety concerns for themselves or others, and sometimes they overstate the impact, and they can even damage your reputation. In spite of these potential problems, an emergency manager can overcome them. A great first step is to appoint a public information officer. A public information officer is a critical position to answer questions about disasters and share details about what the government is doing. There are several other steps that we can take to foster successful relationships with the media. We can get to know them. We can educate them about disasters. We can better understand our audience and media market so that the information we provide is targeted to the population in our community. We can also establish agreements on how we'll operate with the media. A highly recommended practice is to hold frequent or periodic briefings to keep everyone informed. Be sure to announce the time and location and date of these events. Usually having one or two a day is the standard. Make sure you answer questions in the briefing. make sure you don't say, "I have no comment." It's better to say, "I'm not sure, but I will get you that information." Now today, of course, it's essential that emergency managers use social media. Social media includes platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and these platforms can help you with many of the functions relating to information sharing. Let me provide some typical or concrete examples. Social media can help us with warning. It can help us convey routes for evacuation. It can help us share information to the public about safety issues. It can explain the severity of disasters. It can help us collect data on damages. It can share what the government is doing to respond, and it can facilitate our decision making. So social media is a very valuable tool for emergency managers. Social media is a really great resource, but there are potential difficulties and drawbacks. As a case in point, social media is reliant on electricity and the internet, and both of those can fail in a disaster situation. Also, anyone can post information, and that could be wrong or incorrect. And there's so much information on social media that it can be overwhelming. There's been a lot of research on social media in emergency management recently, and it's very exciting. Claire Knox has provided a great case study about Hurricane Irma. She reviewed 26 after-action reports and looked specifically at social media use. And what she found was very interesting. 95% of emergency managers pushed information to the public through social media posts. However, only 19% pulled information from the public, and this is perhaps something that could be corrected in the future. We might ask ourselves, what can be done to harness the power of social media in disasters? The research by David Lehman provides 6 great ideas. We can use the most popular platforms to reach the most people. We can make sure our posts are short and simple. We can correct misinformation when it appears. We can direct our readers to websites for further information. We can provide concrete actions to those who are seeking additional information. And we can send our updates frequently and periodically to keep people informed. Well, I've taken a lot of your time already, so let's conclude with a few observations. Disasters create an insatiable need for information. There's different types of media, and they have different preferences on what type of information they are obtaining and sharing. The media can be a friend or foe. Appointing a public information officer can help you interact with the media, and holding regular briefings is the best practice. Another great idea is to harness the power of social media in pushing and pulling information. If you're seeking further information, there's a great report from FEMA on the important role of public information officers. I would encourage you to read it. There's also a very comprehensive article on the topic of social media by Brian Houston and his colleagues. It's a great summary of the state of the knowledge in this particular area. Finally, I would invite you to read this great case study by Claire Knox. It really helps you to comprehend how social media is used in an actual disaster. That concludes this edition of Disaster Hack. Thanks for joining, and have a fantastic day.